How Earth went from one cell to a million species. This is the story of how one tiny speck, invisible to the naked eye, turned into more than a million species living on Earth today. It all started with a single cell, just one. 3.8 billion years ago, Earth's ancient oceans were nothing but a hot chemical soup with no life at all. No plants, no animals, not even anything that could be called alive. Then, somehow, chemical molecules in that ocean began arranging themselves into structures capable of copying themselves. That structure became the seed of the first life on Earth, the simplest possible single cell. No nucleus, no organs, just a thin membrane wrapping around chemical reactions inside. For almost 2 billion years afterward, that was the only form of life that existed. Not dinosaurs, not fish, not even insects, just single cells floating alone in the ocean, dividing, then floating again. If someone had watched Earth from space back then, the planet would have looked completely dead, even though inside its oceans, trillions of cells were busy just staying alive. 2.4 billion years ago, something happened that changed everything. A group of ancient cells called cyanobacteria discovered a new way to produce energy, using sunlight to turn water and carbon dioxide into food, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. This process is called photosynthesis. It sounds trivial, but the impact was massive. Oxygen, which had barely existed in Earth's atmosphere before, slowly began to build up. This event is known as the Great Oxidation Event, and its effect was like an ecological time bomb. The oxygen we breathe today traces back to something started by these tiny cells, billions of years before humans were even a possibility in evolution. But the oxygen that built up was actually toxic to most life at the time. So many ancient cells that couldn't adapt simply went extinct. Only the cells that managed to adjust survived, and from them emerged a new, more complex kind of cell, one with a nucleus, called a eukaryote. This cell type would later become the ancestor of every plant, fungus, and animal, including humans. 2.1 billion years ago, something far stranger happened. Some eukaryotic cells started sticking together instead of separating after dividing, as they normally would. They began dividing up tasks. Some cells focused on gathering food, others on protecting the group. This was the seed of multicellular life, and scientists found evidence of it in fossils discovered in Gabon, Africa. Ancient organisms a few centimeters long that already had complex shapes. Picture a group of freelancers who used to work alone, suddenly agreeing to form a company with clearly divided roles. That's essentially what happened to these cells. Even so, the transition to a truly stable multicellular life took much longer. For hundreds of millions of years afterward, Earth went through extreme periods that nearly wiped out all the life that had just begun to develop. 720 million years ago, Earth froze over completely. Ice sheets covered nearly the entire planet's surface, from the poles to the equator, in an event called Snowball Earth. The oceans that had been home to ancient cells turned into massive slabs of ice, trapping nearly all existing life beneath a frozen surface for tens of millions of years. Strangely enough, it was this extreme pressure that pushed evolution to move faster once the ice finally melted. The organisms that survived were the most adaptable ones, and they were the ones that passed their genes on to the next generation. 600 million years ago, multicellular life finally became firmly established. Soft-bodied organisms like ancient jellyfish and primitive worms appeared, though most left no fossil trace since their bodies had no shells or bones. Then, 541 million years ago, the most dramatic evolutionary explosion in the history of life on Earth occurred, the Cambrian Explosion. Within an extremely short geological window, only about 20 to 25 million years, which compared to Earth's age is like the blink of an eye. Nearly every major animal group we know today appeared almost simultaneously. Shelled animals, animals with compound eyes, animals with jointed legs, all showed up in near lockstep. Before this, evolution had moved as slowly as a car crawling along at a snail's pace. After the Cambrian Explosion, evolution slammed its foot on the gas. Why did this explosion happen? Scientists believe a combination of factors triggered it. Atmospheric oxygen finally reaching levels high enough to support large, active bodies, then the emergence of eyes as a sensory organ, which sparked an evolutionary arms race between predators and prey once one species had eyes to hunt with. Other species were forced to evolve quickly to escape or defend themselves. As a result, body plan diversity exploded into hundreds of new variations in a short span of time. 375 million years ago, some descendants of these marine animals took an even more extreme step. They moved onto land. A lobe-finned fish called Tiktaalik became one of the most famous pieces of evidence for this transition. Fins that once existed only for swimming gradually evolved into leg-like structures capable of supporting a body on land. This wasn't an instant leap, but the result of millions of years of selective pressure, where individuals with slightly stronger fins had a survival advantage over others. So that trait kept getting passed down and reinforced generation after generation. Once life successfully colonized land, a second explosion of diversity followed. Massive ancient forests appeared, along with the first flying insects, then reptiles, then dinosaurs, which went on to dominate the land for more than 165 million years. 66 million years ago, an asteroid, the width of a small city, slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Within hours, the impact triggered extreme heat waves, global wildfires, and then dust that blocked out the sun for years. As a result, about 75% of species on Earth went extinct, including nearly all non-avian dinosaurs. But this mass extinction actually opened up empty ecological space that had previously been dominated by dinosaurs, giving small mammals, which had stayed hidden all this time, a chance to finally thrive without giant predators in the way. From this point on, mammals evolved at an extraordinary pace, filling nearly every empty ecological niche. Some became large predators, some became flying animals, some returned to the ocean and became whales, and one branch, millions of years later, evolved into humans. Today, the result of that 8 billion year journey can be seen in numbers that are almost impossible to grasp. More than 1 million species have already been identified and named by scientists, while some researchers estimate the true number of species on Earth could exceed 8 million. Once microscopic organisms that humans have never even encountered are counted. All of it, from fungi in the Amazon rainforest to the fastest hummingbird, to the human watching this video right now, traces back to the very same lineage. A single cell floating alone in an ancient ocean 3.8 billion years ago. What makes it even more remarkable is that this process has never stopped. Evolution is still happening right now, in every living cell that divides, in every small mutation that randomly appears. The species alive today are not the endpoint of this story. They're just one moment in a much longer journey. A journey that began with a single cell and, to this day, still isn't finished.